Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2022 Italian Grand Prix, the final race of the final triple header of the season and the final race before F1 has another 2-week break ahead of Singapore. Look, no great surprise here, but I love this track and we've seen some epic and dramatic moments over the years, one of which I will go over in a flashback later in this video. But let's get started, shall we, as we always do, with a look at the track and all the usual stats that go with it. So last weekend, F1 was at Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix where Max Verstappen and Red Bull tightened their grip on the championships. But now it's on to Italy for round 16 of the season and of course Ferrari's home Grand Prix. Fingers crossed it goes better than some of the recent races have for them, but a lap of the famous Autodromo Nacional Monza, or just Monza for short, is 5.793 kilometers long. If you prefer that in miles, that's just shy of 3.6, and is made up of 11 corners with 53 racing laps scheduled for Sunday. Once again, there will be 2 DRS zones to help with overtaking this weekend. One zone will run down the second half of the long start-finish straight, with the other zone running from turn 7 to turn 8, or the second Lesmo to the Ascari chicane if you prefer me to use the famous corner names. And there are some crackers around Monza. The race lap record is a 1:21.046 and is actually still held by Rubens Barrichello thanks to the lap he posted back in 2004. And last year's fastest race lap was a 1:24.812 and that was set by Daniel Ricciardo on his way to victory, the second surprise winner at Monza in as many seasons following Pierre Gasly in 2020. Will we get another this weekend? You never know. And the Aussie-led home teammate Lando Norris, who completed a McLaren 1-2, with Valtteri Bottas taking the final step on the podium. I can't remember where Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were, but I'm sure nothing controversial happened. Honest. And that 1-2 for McLaren, by the way, was the team's first since Canada 2010. That's 11 years prior. And what's really interesting is that if you take Lando Norris's driver number and subtract it from 11, you're left with 7. And as well as being the number of years between double podium finishes for McLaren, it is also the number of tyres in the Pirelli range if we include the wet weather options. Yes, you guessed it, it is tyre talk time. Apparently, I like doing maths in my previews now, but the compounds available for this one are right down the middle of the Pirelli range, and so they are the hard C2, the medium C3, and of course the soft C4. Balance is a big word around Monza. It's so important due to its high-speed nature and its fast corners, and traction is equally as important if drivers want to get a good drive out of these slower corners. Otherwise, they could be compromised down those long flat-out sections. So, for example, it is so important to get the exit of the first chicane right to get a good run through Curva Grande. Mario Isola adds that this year's tyres should lead to less overheating at the rear, and perhaps unsurprisingly, we can expect to see cars running with very low downforce. Last year's winning strategy was a medium to hard one-stopper and only 3 cars pitted more than once in that race. And it will be interesting to see which way teams go with their strategy this weekend, because despite those long straights, it's actually a much more difficult track to overtake on than some people realise. And one of the reasons for that is that DRS is less effective due to the cars running those low drag wings. So teams are very likely to try and make a one-stop race work for that reason. But also, Monza has a pretty high pit lane loss time. Ricciardo stopped last year taking a total of 23.8 seconds, and tyre degradation is quite low. Then again, as I said last week, the higher tyre degradation we've seen so far in 2022 could prevent that from happening. It's going to be fascinating as always. And if you throw a safety car in there as well, things could change, and Aston Martin says there is a good risk of a safety car due to Monza's, quote, higher than average retirement rate, but actually, since the year 2000, we've only seen it make an appearance 8 times. The weather looks set to stay dry, although there is a risk we could see a shower on Friday. At least that's the forecast at time of recording, which once again is Wednesday afternoon. FP1 is set to hit highs of 22 degrees with around a 20 to 30% chance of rain depending on the forecast you use. But that risk plummets through the day and FP2 is expected to stay dry. Saturday is also expected to stay dry with highs of 25 degrees for qualifying, and the risk of rain for the race on Sunday is basically 0, with the start of the race currently set to hit highs of 26 degrees. As always, though, that is the forecast at time of recording, and things could easily change between now and the time we get to the weekend. And your schedule for Monza is, brace yourself, back to the usual European times, and unlike last year, there is no sprint, so it is also the traditional race weekend format once again for Monza. So, FP1 will, as always, kick the weekend off from 1 PM BST on Friday, and FP2 will take place later that same afternoon from 4 PM. Saturday's F1 action will start with FP3 at midday with qualifying underway from 3 p.m. And it is lights out for the race on Sunday at shock horror 2 p.m. and once again that is in UK time. Now just before I move on to the flashback and make some predictions, there are a few things to let you know ahead of this weekend. Nick de Vries will drive Sebastian Vettel's Aston Martin during FP1 on Friday, his third practice appearance in 2022 with his third different team. He just can't get enough. Aston Martin also confirmed he had spent extensive time in a team simulator in preparation for the session. As previously covered, of course, Antonio Giovinazzi will be driving for Haas in first practice in place of Mick Schumacher, and that is all the FP1 driver changes I've seen as I sit and record this. If there are any more between now and this video going out, I'll pop a link down below as always. Keep an eye on Ferrari this weekend as the car will look a little bit different with the team running a special tweaked livery at Monza. The change is to mark 75 years of the car company and celebrate 100 years of Monza as well. The livery features touches of yellow as a nod to the brand's history, with the press release saying that the colour has always been a part of their DNA, alongside the famous Ferrari red, and features on the emblem created by Enzo Ferrari. The drivers, by the way, will also be wearing some special team gear and race suits across the weekend. I mean, let me know what you think about the look in the comments. I do really like the Ferrari name across the rear wing and weirdly do like the accents on the halo, but I'm not too keen on the rest of the yellow bits and how it all works overall. But like I say, let me know what you think. And just while I'm talking about Ferrari, something worth a very quick mention is that it's also reported that Carlos Sainz could be set to start the race on Sunday from the back of the grid as he gets a new power unit, but I must stress nothing official from the team at time of recording. Moving on, and it is time to look back at a classic race at Monza, and given the late 90s has largely been a theme for these this year, I'm going to carry that on and take a look at a race that I remember like it was yesterday, and a race Mika Häkkinen probably quickly wanted to forget. Yes, let's flash back to the 1999 Italian Grand Prix. Häkkinen would start the race from pole with title rival Eddie Irvine languishing down in 8th place, and the Finn led the field away with Alex Zanardi getting a great start in the Williams, by the way, moving into P2, although he was soon passed by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The top two pulled away and Häkkinen was looking comfortable and was set to extend his championship lead. However, on lap 30, he made a mistake whilst changing gear on the entry to that first chicane and slid off track and retired from the race, much to the delight of the Tifosi. He later explained he had accidentally selected first gear instead of second, which caused the rear wheels to lock and he had no time to pull in the clutch or catch the car. That, of course, all resulted in those famous TV images of Häkkinen crouching in the bushes crying out of disappointment, and also because, quote, I was angry with myself. That left Frentzen leading the race, and he never looked back, taking his third career win, leading home Ralf Schumacher in the Williams and Mika Salo, who was still filling in for Michael Schumacher at Ferrari. Irvine did really fail to capitalise on his rival's retirement, although he did get a point for 6th place, and that meant he and Häkkinen were tied at the top of the Drivers' Championship. The results also meant that with just 3 races to go, Frentzen was only 10 points off the pair of them, and that's something that still amazes me to this day. And of course, at the next race at the Nürburgring, the German retired from the lead of the race with a mechanical issue, whilst Häkkinen and Irvine were battling over the tail end of the points. What I'm trying to say is he was right in the title fight up to that point. It wasn't just about Häkkinen's error and Frentzen's win, no, it marks Zanardi's best result of the year with P7. Rubens Barrichello did a great job fending off the McLaren of David Coulthard throughout the race to finish in 4th place. Luca Badoa and Toru Takagi crashed at the first chicane, the arrows climbing over the back of the Minardi, and Giancarlo Fisichella lost control of his Benetton at the same corner and crashed out of the race. Overall, I'll admit perhaps not the most thrilling race of all time, but it did go down in history for what at the time felt like a title-defining moment for Häkkinen, both the spin and the reaction, even if that wasn't the case come the end of the season. Right then, time for some predictions, and as always, please don't take these too seriously, they're just a little bit of fun, and if you do disagree with my picks, then you can let me know yours in the comments section down below. And for the second week in a row, I actually got some things right. I'll give you a second to get over that shock, but I was right on Verstappen's pole, his win, and his fastest lap. I was also correct on best of the rest, Alonso making the top 6, and the number of finishers. Possibly my best result of the season. I should probably print that off and frame it and stick it on the wall somewhere. This time out, honestly, I can't see this going any other way than a Red Bull win. They were so quick in Spa, and Ferrari and Mercedes have been playing their chances down at Monza for a couple of weeks now. Although there is some talk that Ferrari might be bringing a special wing for Monza, so it'll be interesting to see if that makes any difference. But the expectation is that Red Bull will be on top. However, that's only a theory. It's the situation on paper, but cliche alert, races aren't run on paper. So you never know, really, and it would be pretty epic to see Ferrari win in front of the Tifosi. It's always a special sight. That said, and again with the pace and domination they demonstrated in Belgium and the fact they look pretty handy at the moment generally, I've got to go again with Verstappen for pole and for the win if I'm being realistic. If you want me to be crazy, let's say Latifi on pole and the win. Never going to happen, although I'd quite like to see the race that results in that. I really do hope, though, in all seriousness, that someone can be closer to them. And I've got to say, if we're looking at Spa as an example, because there are similarities between Spa and Monza, the race pace of the Mercedes was a surprise. So if, as many are predicting, Monza and Spa will have a similar pecking order, I'm actually going to take a bit of a gamble this week and go with George Russell for P2 and Carlos Sainz for P3. Got to mix it up from time to time. Anyway, behind the top three, I do once again think Alpine will be the best of the rest. And do you know what? It's worked the last 2 races, so I'm going to say another top 6 finish for Alonso. Actually, no. If we're talking about going a little bit more bold this week, let's say we have a little bit of drama and he makes a top 4, right on the fringes of a podium. How about that? Also means it's not the same predictions as last week. Now, I'm not talking top 5 or anything like that, but watch out for Williams this weekend and Alex Albon in particular. That car is very slippery in a straight line and or low downforce track, and so they could be in with a shot of some points. In fact, I'm picking Albon for a Q3 appearance and a top 9 finish on Sunday. And how about a few others as well if you like your bolder predictions? Nicholas Latifi will make Q2, Daniel Ricciardo finishes well inside the points, and it will be a lovely, harmonious weekend on F1 Twitter with everyone able to discuss and debate the weekend's action in a pleasant and grown-up way. Now that is bold. That is it, though, for the Italian Grand Prix preview, but you can let me know your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comments section down below, and I will be back live on Sunday with the usual race reaction stream. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.